Waste no time, I will ask the Governance Officer to read out the domestic arrangements and the fire regulations for you.
Thank you, Chair. Please ensure that you maintain social distancing from all other persons whilst in the chamber and in the communal areas. Please ensure that you wear a face covering at all times unless you are sitting down or if you are exempt from doing so, and that you use the hand sanitizer and wipes provided. Please ensure the microphones are turned off when not in use. Please do not interrupt other speakers or hold separate conversations while others are speaking. If you are attending the meeting to speak and persistently interrupt the meeting, you may be asked to leave. Please ensure your mobile phones are on silent or switched off. We will be using e-voting for this meeting on the Modern Gov app, so please could members make sure they are logged in and ready to use the app. Fire safety arrangements. If you hear the alarm, leave the building immediately via a fire exit and make your way to the Assembly Point, Ipswich Town Football Ground. Follow the signs directing you to the fire exits at each end of the floor. Do not enter the atrium. If you are in the atrium at the time of the alarm, follow the signs to the nearest fire exit. Use the stairs, not the lifts. Do not re-enter the building until it is told it is safe to do so. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of the meeting will be recorded, except where there are confidential or exempt items. If you make a representation to the meeting, you will be deemed by the Council to have consented to being recorded. By entering this meeting as a speaker, you are also consenting to being recorded by the Council and to the possible use of those sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. The Council, members of the public and the press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and the press are not lawfully excluded. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Claire. Quick introductions. Today, our Area Planning Manager is John Patman-Gee. Legal Advisor is Ian Dupre. Our Case Officers are Sarah Scott and Owen Fairs. And Governance Officer is Claire Philpott, you've already met. Let's move on to the agenda. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Mary McLaren.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? No. We have had the minutes for the last meeting. Are there any points regarding the accuracy of these minutes? Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just, if I can, just draw attention, Chair, with regards to the minutes. On page 5, at the very top, 69.1, I think this might, I suspect it's just an accuracy issue, but we've got the applicant shown there as Mr. Theodore Bird. Now, that might well be the case, but as we have an applicant, Mr. Theodore Bird, with us this morning, I'm just wondering if that might have been a cut and paste issue, possibly. I wonder if we can get some clarification.
Thank you. I will just have a look back at the original documents for that meeting and see what I can see. Yes, apologies. That should be the applicant as Hills Building Group. I'll correct that for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I think we've resolved the problem. Subject to that change, can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Parker, seconder, Councillor Ayres. I now ask Claire to arrange the electronic vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members, if you go to your app and select the plus sign in the top right-hand corner, this vote is now in progress. Thank you, Chair. That's 9 votes for and 1 abstention. That's carried.
Thank you very much. Moving on. To receive notification of petitions in accordance with the Council's petition scheme.
Thank you, Chair. We have received a valid petition with 233 signatures. The supporting statement is as follows. We, the undersigned, petition the Council. We would like the Planning Committee to reject the plans in application DC 21036444 to convert the ground floor of the Cyclist in Ballingdon into a shop private flat. Our local community has always had somewhere to come together. This is our last chance to keep something. The current owners of the building have been granted permission to convert the upstairs into private flats and build homes in the garden, but this latest application goes too far, removing more of the space from the community forever. We feel this is just a plan to eventually convert the entire building to private residential use. The change to a shop also could impact on our much-loved convenience store, Strawberry Stores. The venue has been central to forming a sense of community in recent years and should not be lost. We feel the venue can be made to be profitable and would be interested in running it as a community project. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Noted. Moving on. Site inspections. Are there any requests for site visits?
None received, Chair.
None from the officers. Okay. Moving on then. Planning schedule, PL 2119, we have DC 21 03643, 53 Ballingdon Street. I must ask Councillor Ayres if you're going to stay on the committee or are you going to speak as a ward member?
I'm going to stay on the committee, thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now invite the case officer Sarah Scott to introduce the application to the committee. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. I'd like to present the full planning application and listed building consent for works in association with the change of use from cafe to part retail, part office at ground floor, change of use of the disused ancillary cellar to commercial use and associated works, and both works and change of use of the shed to a holiday let at 53 Ballingdon Street, Sudbury, formerly the Cyclist, and prior to that, the King's Head. This is brought before committee due to its controversial nature. So this slide shows you the aerial views of the site. They're hatched in pink. Again, site location plan edged in red. Here you can see the site. It's a listed building. It's surrounded by other listed buildings within the conservation area.
Struggling to hear.
Sorry.
Sorry, Sarah.
Okay, is that better? Okay. Okay, so the site is within the conservation area. It's a listed building surrounded by other listed buildings. This is the proposed and existing plans and elevations. You can see, let me get my pointer, that the only addition to the external of the building is this area here, which is a small lean-to, which will go over the rear of the building and the cellar area. This is building A, which is the shed which will be converted into the holiday let. There is an area on the boundary just here that you will notice has been opened more to allow for the visibility display. This was approved with the previous application for the conversion here, the addition of these two dwellings at the back of the site. There are internal arrangements to allow for the office to go on this side of the building. Our heritage team are happy with the internal changes. So this slide shows you the proposed elevations of the outbuilding, which will be holiday accommodation. The shed currently has a pitched roof, but originally it had a gambrel style roof. This design has been proposed, which allows for a first floor to be added to accommodate a bedroom. Windows have been limited to protect neighbouring residential amenity. This is the rear of the main building. This slide shows the access to the cellar and the area in which the lean-to extension is to be located. This is the shed and the proposed holiday let, which is left of the rear of the main building. This shows the access point onto Ballingdon Road, where the traffic lights are. This is an area of wall, also beside the access, which will be removed to allow for the visibility display. This shows the building that as existing, which will be removed to allow for a semi-detached two dwellings at the back of the plot. This is a Google image just to show the site from the roadway. You can see the wall that encloses the site, and then you see the rear of the building, and you can just see the top of the holiday let just here. And just to summarise, councillors are asked to consider the change of use from shed to holiday accommodation and associated works. The works to the main building is required to facilitate internal changes, and the lean-to extension to the rear over the cellar steps. All other changes of use are considered permitted development under Class E of the Use Class Order 1st of September 2020 that recently engaged in 2021, and in the last couple of months to replace a number of other classes, including retail and offices. It is appreciated that this recent change in legislation may have confused the public in respect of this proposal. The works themselves are not considered to harm the character of the listed building, and the change of use for just the holiday let is considered supportable in this sustainable town location. Therefore, based on its merits, approval is recommended. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions from members? Councillor Owen.
Thank you. On slide 13, can you tell us how much of a wall they're taking down, please?
Okay, I was looking at the approved plans, and I believe it will be sort of around about here. So it allows for the building to be built in this position and one parking space. So yeah, I believe it's around about this point here.
Councillor Beale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Right. Yes, it's the former pub area, car park, isn't it? And certainly recently does seem to be a lot of traffic coming down North Street. Coming down Ballingdon Hill. If you're taking all this wall out, is there going to be more of a restricted area there for vehicles getting in and out? Because it's quite congested now, but I think it's fair to bear in mind that it was a pub car park, so there was a lot more cars going in and out, but I don't think there was so much congested traffic getting lined up at the traffic lights in the past as there is now.
Okay, one of the slides, I might just put the slides up, shows, thank you, oh, there it is. So if you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parking spaces along here, and the rest go along the front of these buildings here. The access point I must just confirm, was approved under the previous planning application to have that wall removed. So no parking spaces will be lost due to the loss of the wall. I hope that answers your question.
Any more questions? Councillor Hinton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's slide 7. No, 8. Yeah. That French doors, is that proposed to be kept? And if so, how are you going to secure access into the cellar if those cellar doors are opened at any time? Somebody drops through them?
I think that could be a question for the applicant. Let me just bring this up. Can't really see too clearly, but there will be a door here. It looks slightly further over from the cellar door, where I believe stairs will be included. So hopefully that would prevent people from falling down.
Mr. Chairman, just a second one. The buildings at the bottom of that particular slide, I think two bedroom houses or something, are they part of this proposal, or have they been approved, or are they just sort of in somebody's dream?
Okay, those have been previously approved back in 2019.
Any more questions? Councillor Oswald.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a clarification, please. Can you show me the slide you had up already? That area on the left there, by where is there. What actually is that going to be?
Building A.
Whatever
this
building
one here.
A is that the?
That is currently a shed that will be a holiday let, a single bedroom holiday let.
Not a very big shed, is it? According to the drawing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think that yes, they are in.
Can I just go back to the question of the doorway and the staircase? I apologise we can't zoom in on that particular plan, but just to clarify that the new extension on the end will have a double door, you'll have a space, the stairs then go down to the cellar, but the doorway will be converted, the existing door, to a single doorway to one side, so you'll be able to go manoeuvre around. So essentially, you're creating a new lobby area where that extension at the end of the cellar is at the moment. So you'll be able to choose which direction you go down, either down the stairs or around the stairs and through into the building. Just to clarify that, because I didn't think it was overly clear with that drawing, and I do apologise.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, thank you very much, Sarah. We'll move on. Public speakers. We have nobody from the Town Council, objector or supporter, but we do have the applicant, Mr. Theo Bird. You have 3 minutes to address the committee.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Theo Bird and I'm the applicant. The scheme before you is about ensuring the financial sustainability of the site and the businesses within it in an ever more challenging market. Since we began regenerating the site, the main business, the cyclist, has been loss leading. Any chance of moving into profit-generating territory were dashed by the pandemic. We therefore need to create a more stable and sustainable financial model for the business, not just so that it can survive, but so that it can thrive. I would like to suggest respectfully that the application is a no-brainer. As your officer has pointed out, the part change of use to office and retail doesn't actually require planning permission, it is permitted development. The officer and all your consultees have confirmed that the proposals accord with the development plan and would not give rise to any impacts, including to highways and residential amenity. The proposed retail space will provide amenities that will cater for the local population, Ballingdon and Sudbury. The proposals will increase the amount of amenity, retail and employment space we can offer and will decrease the rents we need to charge, and as a result, they will secure an uplift in employment from 3 part-time roles to 4 full-time ones. When we purchased the site, we hope to create a sustainable food and drink destination for the locality and beyond, serving the area and drawing people in from further afield. We have partially succeeded in our goal. We've a dedicated following amongst the ever-growing cohort of London and East Anglian cyclists, but we want to go further. I am passionate about seeing this part of Sudbury thrive. When I visit other places at home and abroad and see the contribution that their independent businesses make, it makes me want the same for Ballingdon. Why shouldn't we be able to create that same draw to drive our local economic growth and provide the inspiration and impetus for other exciting independent business startups? I want Ballingdon to be the best it can be for its local population, and for those who visit the area to encourage them and reward them for coming. I would be grateful for your support today so that I can continue to deliver this vision. Thank you.
Thank you. You please wait there. We'll see if there are any questions. Any questions? Councillor Beer.
Yes, thank you. Could you just clarify, right at the start of your comments, you said something about the cyclists and lost leaders or something? I didn't quite get what you meant, or I don't think I really heard it because it was very early on.
That's okay. So we bought the pub, and then we've run the cyclist cafe, and it's been open for 2 years. So that has been the main business so far on the site.
That's not, sorry, Mr. Chairman, but that's not a lost leader.
It has been a lost leader.
That was what I thought.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the idea.
Disappointing to hear that, but
no problem.
I understand where you come from now. Thank you.
Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Mr. Bird. Forgive me, what is the plans for the converted offices? What you mentioned employment opportunities and things. Are you going to be running a business from there, or will it be sort of shared office space or something?
So the idea is to divide the ground floor space, and on one side have an office, and on the other we want a retail stroke cafe space. We've got someone lined up to go in, and it suits. It's sort of, now we know the site, it will suit the site.
Councillor Busby first.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Bird, how do you respond to the petitioners?
I can see where they're coming from, but it's just when we bought the site, it was effectively an insolvent pub. I know there's a lot of romance about the good old days and back to the pub, but it's just not on the cards. We gave it a go by incorporating some licensed trade within our cafe offering. Even then, we've done the statistics to make that place successful as a pub. You need to sell 70,000 pints a year, or that's 15 kegs of beer a week. The licensed side of the cafe trade, we struggle to sell half a keg. So I think there's a massive gap between the aspiration of the petition and the reality. And I understand, but it's just we've been on the coalface, so we really know what's going on.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll, I hope yours is to deal with planning matters, unlike Councillor Busby.
Oi.
I'm not entirely certain, but if I ask the question, you can rule it in or out of order. And it concerns the use of the building, which I think would be a planning matter. As I understand it, and I just wanted to confirm this, the intention is to continue use as a cafe, which it has currently been for the last 2 years. I mean, it just says shop, but we're not actually defining necessarily exactly what that shop will be, as far as I can see from the application. It's the only reference I can hear to the word cafe has been made just now by you, Mr. Bird. Is that correct? Am I understanding it properly?
So we've got someone lined up to go into the cafe due to the nature of the petition and online activity, we have to protect our client. They want it to remain confidential. So it's the sort of sad side of, obviously we're very keen to share and evangelise about what we want to do, but then we've got to protect our client from barrage of social media. There will be a cafe offering within that, but it will be a sort of more modern offering, probably a mix of retail and a cafe offering, which is quite contemporary.
Thank you. Councillor Ayres.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome. Can I ask, with the employment opportunities, is there any likelihood of any apprenticeships to help the youth?
Very likely. So, yeah, in fact, we've got 2 plans for incoming business. So if the first one fails, we have a secondary plan. Both will feature probably a cafe offering. Both offer very exciting apprentice opportunities.
Councillor Parker.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just coming back to Councillor Busby's non-planning matter, where communities might be concerned at the loss of an asset such as public house, they might often register an ACV bid, asset of community value. Has any such bid come forward from any group for what is formerly the King's Head?
No.
There is Erin.
Thank you. Just to pick up on that, I appreciate the description of development perhaps wasn't the best way of wording this application, and we apologise for that. But ultimately, the starting point here is this is a cafe, and because of the recent changes in legislation, we now have this new Class E, which is essentially combined all of Class A, Class B1, a bit of D1, all into one bulky class of its own. So essentially, cafe is now the same class as a retail shop, which is the same class as apparently according to this, a swimming pool, ice skating ring, professional services, nurseries, and it also includes B1 office use. So all of that now is all part of the same class. So it's all part of the same family. So essentially, this is a cafe. The public house went some time ago. It's no longer a public house. The legal point to start from is a cafe, and therefore it can pretty much become anything it likes without our involvement anymore due to these changes in legislation in terms of office, retail, cafe. And what proportion the building has for those different uses is up to the owner. In terms of this application before us, the only change of use element that we're in control of is the change of use of the shared to holiday let, which is at the back, as shown on the screen. The only other thing we have before us is works in association with those change of use. In terms of the planning, that's the extension, and in terms of the listed building, that's everything, including the internal changes. So it's the physical works and just the change of use of the holiday let. Just didn't want us to go down a couple of red herrings or paths. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have Councillor Jameson?
Thank you. You mentioned that you're keen to see this area of Sudbury thrive, and you feel this will make that difference. And I just wondered what makes you believe that these changes will help the area thrive where you failed previously.
It's just really sort of understanding, we kind of understand the site now. Because of the location, it doesn't have town centre draw, but it does have a kind of, the commercial space is a space where we can do something in there, probably lower footfall, but if those are cash generative and employ people, then that in its own way will make the area thrive. It's a kind of, Ballingdon is a kind of lower beat end of Sudbury. It's not North Street. You're not going to get lots of people buzzing around in the same way they do in the town centre. But it's so that it can thrive in its own way. So there'll be activities within the building that will employ people, and then there'll be a bit of coming and going. But that, to be honest, when we bought the site, it was a derelict pub. We had an old pint of Guinness smashed against the sign with it looked derelict. So I think that's, and that's what we're very proud of, is that we've lifted it thus far, and it just, it needs a little bit, this scheme will help us to sort of, put a sustainable, longer term offer into the site that will be there in the future. The last thing we want is to get rid of all commercial activity on that site. So, and I've said that in the application as well. Does that answer your question?
Councillor Beer, did you have another question, or you're all right?
No, I've got a question. I've got a question also that I should put in debate to the officers regarding the petition, but I'll come to that then. And it reflects my next point. If we were minded not to approve this, what is the alternative you see as the situation there? And I do know the site very, very well, and certainly from a pub point of view, it's now in the wrong place for today's modern sort of world. But anyway, that aside, how do you see the alternative if we were minded not to approve this?
So if we didn't get this application, and for whatever reason we didn't move it forward, I think it's, to be honest, it switches into our worst case thing, which is that we will probably enter a programme of converting the whole site to residential. The bits and pieces of residential that we've done there, in its own way, it works. There's a market for affordable rent for young people and things on that site, so we could be confident in that. But we'd be very, we'd be gutted ourselves, if that's what it ended up being. We don't think the bit that we want to major on commercially on the site is right next to a busy road. Yes, someone would probably live there if it was put on the market. Is it a happy place to live? No.
Thank you. Any more questions to the applicant? Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on. We'll move into debate if there's no more questions. And I have to ask Councillor Ayres, as the board member, you can start the debate. You don't have to. It's not compulsory. You can have the last word if you wish.
Oh, well, yes, thank you. I too know the site very, very well, and Ballingdon. And there are other places, because I know one of the petitions against, there's no other place, but just up the road, All Saints Church Hall has just been refurbished, so that is a community space with a kitchen and everything. And just around the corner is AFC Sudbury, so there are other places where people could go against that argument. We desperately do need holiday lets, because I'm in and out of the town hall and I know how many people go in there and look for them, so that's something we need, and more employment. So I would just like to add that to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beer.
Yes, could I just be reminded by the officers, what was the crux of the petition? Were they against, and how sizeable was it? Were they against the alteration to a cafe, or are they against more congested traffic there, or what are the reasons?
Well, if I can sum it up quickly from my copy here, it's they want the venue to be a community project. And I can't see anything else that they're really objecting to, other than they want to keep it as a community asset. Councillor Busby.
Well, in line with that, I'm surprised that out of 233 people, not one of them significantly objects against it to turn up and speak against it. So it's a shame, really, isn't it?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCraw.
Can I ask, Chair, if we're in debate as yet?
We are.
In that case, I'm just looking through everything and hearing everything, both from the applicant and the officer. The only bit of this that is under our direct control is the holiday let. Everything else is already contained within the existing planning permissions and permitted development rights. So effectively the question I ask myself is, would we grant the holiday let in any other circumstances in a similar location? Is the impact of that holiday let so great that there's any reason to refuse? I can't see that that's the case. And in both cases, for this application and the change of use, I believe that the application fits the bill. I mean, there is a need for holiday lets in all these places. There is the possibility of continued use. I mean, I have actually used that pub, ironically, to watch a cycle race, which went up Ballingdon Hill, I think, in 2015. The Tour of Britain went up that hill, and I went to that pub on the corner and watched the race from there, and they became a cyclist cafe. So, putting that aside, I'm proposing to propose that we accept the officer recommendation on this motion.
Thank you, Councillor McGraw. Second, Councillor Beer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm not proposing to jump on my bike and go down there. I'd rather jump in my car and go down there. But yes, I think this is the right course of action. Holiday let is useful, as Councillor Ayres has said, and I agree with the proposal, so I'm very pleased to second it. Thank you.
Okay. Any more comments? Councillor Hinton, you want to make a comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a point to clarify really, asset of community value has been mentioned, but that only becomes valid even if it is listed as an asset of community value if it comes up for sale. And there's no proposals here to sell it. The proposal is to convert it into a viable commercial activity.
You're right, it doesn't. Anything else? If not, we'll move to a vote on this. Can you just sort of summarise exactly what we're... I don't think there's any change from what's been recommended by the officer, is there?
So you're voting on the planning application first in terms of the recommendation before you. I believe we need to go through the process again for the listed building application because the applicant is... Thank you. So in terms of that, the planning application, it is as your papers, which is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions laid out there. And I'm just looking at the conditions. So you've got the standards time limit, approved plans, the heritage conditions, the highway conditions, holiday let, occupation, construction hours and to be imposed, and lighting scheme to be agreed.
Thank you. We're now all set to do the electronic vote. I can see that, if you'd like to vote.
Members, that vote is now in progress. Thank you, members. Chair, that's 9 votes for and 1 against. That's carried.
Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on. Same site, but it's DC 20036444, 53 Ballingdon Street, and this is for listed building approval. Sarah, were you going to say anything else, or have you said it all in your first presentation?
I covered it all in the first presentation.
Thank you. You've heard the presentation. Any questions from members on this matter, or you're all happy to accept it? John?
Apologies. Just in terms of your recommendation on page 26, it does say our recommendation is to grant listed building consent. Just under the the standard time limit, it is a standard time limit for listed building consent, which is 3 years. Please ignore the rest that's in that bracket that shouldn't be there, and we apologise for that error.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Beer, you propose...
Sorry, yes, I was wondering whether there was any other comment. Yes, I'll move the officer's recommendation because we've heard it all. Thank you.
Did the applicant want to speak on this, or just fine? I didn't think he would. And Councillor McGraw, you wanted to say something?
I just said when I made the first proposal, I was quite prepared to support the second, but obviously that was premature.
So a proposer and seconder. Any more comments in the debate? If not, we'll move straight to the vote. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Chair. Members, I've just added a note to reflect what Mr. Pateman-G has said. And that vote is now in progress.
It's unusual for them to be ahead of you, Claire. Right, there we are.
Mr. Chairman, what was the note that you've added? Sorry.
No.
As amended by...
That bit, yeah.
Thank you, members. Chair, that's 9 votes for and 1 against. That's carried.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bird. Thank you, Sarah. Right, members, I propose to move on to the next one straight away, unless anybody's desperate for a break. Apart from Councillor Busby, of course, who's always desperate for a coffee. Sorry? I know. That was why I was trying to get Councillor Busby to give entertainment.
Chair, do you not think we should have had a site visit for this one?
Which one? You sure you want to go to Acton again? Why don't you ask Councillor Owen to go around with a phone and film it for you? Councillor Busby, you're quite within your rights to suggest a site inspection as we discuss this if you wish. Okay, on? Okay. DC 21-05221, Genesis Corner, Clayhall Lane. An application is before us because it is from a councillor. Right. I will now invite the case officer to introduce the application to the committee.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Today I'm presenting an application for the erection of a front porch at Genesis Corner in Acton. The application has been brought forward to the committee as it's been submitted on behalf of Councillor Maybury. This is an aerial map of Acton. The site, as highlighted in red, is located to the east of Clayhall Lane within the defined built-up area boundary of Acton. So a closer view of the site, which is again highlighted in red. So this is the site location plan. The site, the red line showing the application site. In terms of constraints, the Grade 2 listed puddle duck garden is located to the north of the site, as shown in gold. A group of protected trees under tree preservation order is located to the frontage of the site to the west, as shown in green. And a definitive public right-of-way runs along the southern and eastern boundary of the site, as shown in the dashed green line.
Sorry, Chair, before we move on, can you just explain the different greens? Is there a Grade 1 listed building to the north and then trees to the south, or...?
Yes, that's correct. There is a Grade 1 listed to... sorry, I can't exactly see the pound. No, that is a group of tree preservation orders to the north of the site and along the eastern boundary. All of it? So we've got tree preservation orders here, down here, and along here.
Unhelpfully, it's very square shape, those trees at the top, but they are actually, it's just the plotting of where those trees are in a group. So it's a group TPO, but it's done in a square, which makes it look like a building, but it is, all the greens are tree, relevant tree POs. Okay.
Well, if Acton have been able to develop the ability to grow square trees, I think they should be listed as well.
Thank you, Councillor Busby. Owen, would you like to continue?
So I'll now take you through the existing and proposed plans. So these are the existing and proposed site layouts with the proposed porch shown to the western elevation. So here. So these are the existing floor plans. And again, the existing porch can be seen here. The existing elevations. So again, you can see the existing porch canopy here. So proposed floor plans. Again, you can see the proposed porch. And finally, the proposed elevations. Again, you clearly see the porch proposed. The extension would be finished in cream hardy plank above a red brick plinth and a pan tile roof. The red brick plinth and the pan tiles would match existing dwelling. So now just a couple of photos of the site for some context. In the bottom left corner of the slides shows where the photo was taken from. This shows the front western elevation of the site. With this one, the northern side elevation, again you can clearly see the existing porch canopy. To summarise, the proposed extension is considered to appear modest, respecting the relationship with the site with an appropriate size and scale and appearance. The proposal would have no detrimental impact on highway safety or residential amenity, nor impact the character of the surrounding area, including the setting of the Grade 2 listed building. The proposal accords with relevant development management policies and the NPPF. Therefore, the recommendation, is to grant planning permission of the conditions set out within your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Any questions to the officer? Councillor Veer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps I've missed it, but on slide 8 and 10, and then you show 12, is the roof, is the porch roof already in existence? Yes. So the extension bit is to be beneath it?
Essentially, apologies. Essentially, the existing porch will extend out from the existing kind of canopy area. So, if you can see from the proposed elevations, you can see. So you've got the existing there. So you can see the existing.
Yeah.
The existing canopy roof, and then from the proposed, it extends out further.
Yeah. So it's existing the roofs and they're just extending the bottom. Thank you.
Councillor McGraw.
Is that marginally higher, that elevation for the porch roof? Not like worrying about it, but is that the case? It looks slightly higher and slightly further reaching.
No, the eaves height will match existing. And the ridge height will measure 4 metres, which would match existing, I believe. It makes it slightly higher.
Thank you. Any more questions for the officer? If not, we'll move into debate. Who wants to? Councillor Busby, did you have a question for the officer?
Well, I was just going to ask whether he considered it to be sustainable.
Thank you, Councillor Busby. Oh, you don't have to answer that. Fine. Is that a question, Councillor Parker? No, we just want to open up the debate. Councillor Hinton, is yours a question?
No, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation. I think this wouldn't have come to us except for 2 reasons. One, listed building impact, and two, in fact, it's a councillor. But the impact on the listed building seems to be virtually nil.
Councillor Beard, do you want a second?
Yes, Mr Chairman, I'll be very pleased to second it. It wouldn't have come here if it hadn't been a councillor. And really, we shouldn't be wasting any more time on it. We've done what we need to do, and I'm very pleased to second it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Owen, I take it you were going to try and second as well. You're going to have to go home and have practice quick on the draw like Councillor Beard. Are there any more comments? If not, we have a proposal in front of us to the officer's recommendation. Is the area planning manager happy with that?
More than happy. So yes, so your recommendations on page 34, simply a time limit, condition and approved plan, standard stuff.
Fine. In that case, I think we'll ask Claire to open the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members, that vote is now in progress for you. Thank you, members. Chair, that is 10 votes for. That's unanimous.
Thank you. That's the final vote. The next meeting will be in the Elizabeth Room on the 1st of December. Thank you, and I formally close the meeting. Thank you.